What's up, you guys? So there are objectively positive things, objective benefits that come with being a very sensitive person. Someone who notices everything and who is very empathic, empathetic, whatever you want to call it, that just picks up signals in the environment very easily, and maybe even gets entangled in them sometimes if we're not very careful. The benefit to me is just being more aware and able to navigate things in a way that other people can't. Like, for example, the ability to see problems before they become a problem. Well, to me, it's already a problem, but to the person who's not very sensitive, it's going to take like many, many years before they even see that as a problem. It's going to take many years before they even acknowledge or notice the thing even being a thing. So that's a pro with being a highly sensitive person, because basically you're like 20 steps ahead of everybody else. You're able to structure your life in a way that nobody would have even thought to structure, because they wouldn't have even seen the signs or the things that require them to structure it that way in the first place. For example, many people saw that, they should move their money offshore, or they should start diversifying their taxes or their finances, or they should start looking for careers that, like, many years ago people started noticing. Very sensitive people, let's say, sensitive or perceptive, or whatever you want to call it, people started noticing that having a job that required them to come into work physically every day wasn't going to cut it for them. They wanted, in order to feel safe in the world in the future, they wanted to have a kind of job that they could do through their computer online. And so people around them might have said, you're kind of being nitpicky. Like, what's the difference between a job that requires you to, that requires your hands versus a job that requires a computer? Like, why is everything a problem for you? Why do you need to do something that requires a computer versus your hands, that requires you to go in physically? And then over time, maybe those people were able to move countries easily, travel, work remotely easily, or move cities, move out of the city more easily, and save money on their lifestyle, have a better lifestyle, invest in more things, invest in a studio, in a home studio, invest in business, let's say, with the money that they save, in a way that the other person might have not. And so that person might become wealthier just from sensing early on that being stuck to a job that requires your hands and feet might become a problem. Another way that being a highly sensitive person can save you, probably the main way that it will save you, is with health. When you can sense things early on, when you can sense your feelings, what you feel early on, when you're so bothered by it early on, you're able to prevent health problems down the line. A lot of health problems are actually emotional problems that turn into health problems. And if you've dealt with like autoimmune diseases, things that are like very chronic over time, a lot of people have already discovered this for themselves when they like trace back the chronic issue or the heart problem, or even in many cases cancer. I don't want to talk for cancer patients because it's there's so many things that cause cancer. But like, when you can be really hypersensitive to your feelings and the things that are happening in your body, like, if something is wrong in your body, you would know yesterday. You would know it yesterday. And you'd be able to address it. You'd be able to feel through it. You'd be able to breathe through it. You'd be able to talk about it. Be able to scream about it. In a way that the person that isn't sensitive, that doesn't see it as a problem, they won't be able to do until the problem is past repair. People that are highly sensitive, and I've noticed this just in people that I've met, people that are highly sensitive, overly sensitive even, tend to be very conscious about their health in a very preventative way. They can fix things before the things can even need to be fixed. And to the point where other people that are blind to this, even the fact that you call it highly sensitive, because it's just a relative term. The only reason it's called highly sensitive is because like 90% of the people around them are just lacking senses. So since 90% of the people around them are lacking senses to these things being a problem, all those 90% of people, to them, it's like, oh, this person is OCD, this person is obsessive, this person is too much. What is too much? But so since all of us have the same opinion, it must be true because all of us have the same viewpoint. So it starts to become a burden when you have to be the highly sensitive one. When you're highly sensitive, it starts to become a burden when you are operating in the same game, in the same realm as people that are lacking senses, that are lacking the ability to see these things as problems. For whatever reason, either they never grew these senses to begin with, or that these senses were beat out of them. For example, let's say a person who's apathetic, who lacks the ability to sympathize with other people, to feel other people's. A lot of people that are apathetic, that aren't able to feel for you when you're going through something. A lot of people that are like that, maybe they had the ability to feel for you when you're going through something. Maybe they had this ability when they were a child or something, or to feel for themselves when they're going through something. Like let's say you have a friend that's apathetic. Like let's say you have a friend that can watch the worst horror movie ever, the worst tragedy ever, hears about a tragedy, and they're just a blank face. Like they have no emotions and they're not bothered by it at all. And you're like, oh my God, like why are you so apathetic? Sometimes people didn't grow with that specific ability. For whatever reason. But sometimes they had that ability in childhood and it was kind of banged out of them, maybe through a trauma, and in order and their coping mechanism became apathy. Like they had a very tragic thing happen to them. Let's say their parent passed away, or let's say they watched a loved one, something really bad happened or to them, happened to them in a very brutal way, that the only way for them to basically not go crazy was in their mind to segment off this part of this memory and this thing that happened to them and block off like all sympathizing emotions. So that could be the case with those people. So whatever the reason is, it's really difficult to be the feeling person or the sensing person or the noticing person in a room full of people that don't notice. You know, apathy is a superpower, really, if you are in a place where nobody else is feeling. If you have to be the one to feel the thing, you know, if you're in your own personal hell where you have to feel the things that nobody else around you is feeling, if everybody around you is on medications and you're the only person that's not, it's kind of its own hell. And they're all telling you, why don't you get on some drugs, yo? If everybody around you is drunk, everybody around you is high, and you're not high. Personally, I would like to be the only person who's drunk in a room full of people that are sober. I would like to be the only person who's clean in a room full of people. I would like to be the only person who's high in a room full of people that are clean. I would like to be the only person who's medicated in a room full of unmedicated people, because for me, the burden of feeling when other people are not is too high. It's too difficult. So we started off talking about the pros of being a highly sensitive person. Right now we're talking about the con of being a highly sensitive person. it's really stressful for me and difficult to be the person who sees the problem in a room full of people who do not see the problem. And one thing I noticed that I felt throughout my life, and I felt it more in the States, because when I was living in the States, I was more in like the humdrum of things. I wasn't an expat in the States. I was more in like the daily life. I was a waitress. I was a writer, PR staff. I had a job. I wasn't a tourist. I wasn't an expat. I wasn't, I was with family. I grew up in a community. I was entrenched in the place and the culture, in the working class mindset, in the trenches. Whereas as a expat that lives in places around the world, like, I'm not really getting entrenched in the local mindset of the working class, the average working class person. Even if everybody around me was much wealthier than me, like, I still wouldn't be getting entrenched in their working class mindset. So this is something that I struggled with as someone that lived and worked in the local everyday working class culture, was perhaps because of the way that life was, there was no room to be a sensory person. And because there was no room to be a sensory person, and being a sensory person is really a superpower. In order to be a sensory person, like, it takes a lot of energy to be a sensory person. And it's hugely rewarding if you understand what life is about, and you understand that life isn't only about right now working to make money right now, and right now eating to survive right now. If you understand that life can be more than that, that you can have ways of surviving, making money that can last you for years, have a good life, that you can be creative, that you can work because you want to, not because you have to. If you can understand that there is so much that you can benefit from having a sensitive mind that is sensitive to problems and things that could go wrong or that could go right. Sensitive mind, sensitive feelings, all these things. To be a highly sensory person. If you can, or even at least that you can be creative, that you can come up with cool art. Like, if you can understand the value in it, you would really appreciate it. But I think that many people in the cultures that I was in for so long, like, didn't understand the value of it because their purpose in life was so short term. It was so like living in a factory life. Like, I serve the corporate factory life. Everybody we don't really care about the result. All we care about is like to work hard, to show that we work hard. The people that are hiring you, all they want to see is that you're working hard and you're suffering and working hard all day. They don't actually care about results because they were trained to not care about results, because everybody was trained to not care about results. So there, like, so many businesses are just like fake businesses. They're like not really making money. They're and then there's like this is another interesting thing, is like there's in the working class culture, there is this idea that like 75% of businesses fail. There's this idea that 75% of businesses fail, and everyone tells it to each other. Don't start a business because 75% of businesses fail. And there's many different numbers that fly around. Some people say 90%, some people say 50%. They're in the working class culture, and I'm sure it's like, I know it's like this everywhere. It's not just in my country. Every country has this in the working class culture. In the working class culture, there's a story that everybody tells each other to keep themselves living like this fake zombie lifestyle. And they tell each other that there's no point to feeling your feelings. You're always going to be sad. There's no point to seeking happiness. If you can't be happy now, you'll never be happy, which I've heard this like almost every day. Like I heard this when I was living there. This is what I heard all the time. I heard it from the working class culture, from working class people. And also a lot of like relatives, which they would never tell me that now because they see me now, they see my life now, and they've been proven wrong. And of course I still have days that I complain, I'm not happy, but I also have days that I'm happy. And if I am not happy in a day, I would never dare share it with them, because then I would have to hear the same old, oh, if you're not happy now, you will never be happy. Whereas, what's the point of living? Like, if you really think that way, what's the point of living? Literally, why don't you just end your life right now, please? Like, what's the point? But this nihilistic attitude of like, there's no point. If you can't be happy now, you'll never be happy. What's the point of starting a business? Because if you start a business, like, since we live in a world where most people are working class, and because they're not sensitive enough to like understand point of failure and understand like how things work, most people's businesses are going to be failures. So there's this like fake story that if you start a business, it's gonna fail, which is not true. Actually, if you're someone who's actually thinking through it, you don't have to fail your business. In fact, the way that I see it, the way that I see the world, your business never has to fail. You never have to fail. You can start a business and just keep going and going and going until it becomes successful. That's how life works. You keep doing something. You're basically, when you're starting a new business and you've never been successful before, you're like someone whose eyes are closed in the dark, and you're just like feeling and feeling and feeling. And it's like, if you've seen other people do it and succeed, you might grow an intuition where like you know exactly where to go and you don't have to fail so much. But like, if you've never been around that, and you didn't grow up around like a ton of very successful business people, most likely what's going to happen is you're going to like go around and you're going to like feel a lot, and you're going to make a lot of things fall while you're doing it. And you won't even know where you're going because you don't even have an example in your mind of what you're looking for. And with, not just with businesses, with art, let's say you're an aspiring artist, you want to be really creative and create something that's so original and special, but like, you didn't grow up with artists. You grew up with people that follow a manual. Let's say they work in healthcare or in construction, and those are very important jobs. But let's say you grew up around that and you decided that you wanted to be an artist. It's going to take a little bit longer for you probably because you didn't have that example of people following an artistic flow. Like, you're basically in the dark, eyes closed, you're trying to feel everything like this. And so you're going to fail maybe a little bit more, but then all the people around you will see that you're failing, and they're going to say, and you will be failing more than the average person that did grow up around a lot of artists or around a lot of successful business people or whatever. So then the people around you will see that the working class people or whatever, they're going to see that you're failing, and they're going to say, see, I told you. Or they might not even say anything. You have been programmed to tell yourself this, like, see, I told you you're failing. I told you you're going to fail. You're not going to be good at it. See, I told you you can't be happy because you'll never be happy. Because if you're not happy now, then you'll never be happy. If you're not happy when you're struggling, then there's no point of getting anything in life that you want, because you'll just never be happy. And you're going to tell yourself this. And it's happening in your subconscious. So you can't really control it so much in the moment. Okay, your subconscious is just feeding back this information that it was given when you were vulnerable, so you took it in like a sponge, or when you were a child, so you were just very impressionable. So it's going to take in all this information, regurgitate it back to you, and then you're going to say, and like, I feel like this is how the universe weeds you out and really, really selects for the people that should make it to the other side. Because most people would just give up at that point. with the circumstances that they've had. But the cool thing with being a highly sensory person or highly sensitive person, whatever you want to call this, is that while it is a very stressful thing, because I feel like I have a million thoughts in my head, a million things that I've noticed, even just waking up to this morning, I wake up, I come out of the bed, I notice a million things. I notice every single bug. This is a real thing, by the way. Some people are like this. And it's not some kind of disorder or genetic problem. Some people treat it as a problem and they live their whole life as a problem in a negative frequency. They live their whole life in a negative frequency in some dungeon on a bunch of medications, and they never become anything, and they just live like that their whole life, which is a very short life. But like, this is a way that a lot of people are naturally, and it can be, yeah. So anyway, so I wake up in the morning and I like notice like a bunch of little things. It's a lot of stimulation. I have like a million thoughts going through my brain. And sometimes these thoughts are warring with each other, because like every single thing that every person ever said to me is like etched in my brain. Every single thing that I ever heard walking out on the street is etched in my brain. I'm remembering everything. It's just being a highly conscious person. I don't want to say overly, like a highly conscious person. And it drives you nuts, and it makes you feel overwhelmed sometimes, and it makes you feel crazy sometimes. But it's really easy to forget the benefits of it. Is that because I have sensed so much, I'm able to sense things that other people can't sense. And I know this at this point. I know that I can sense things other people can't sense, to the point where someone will say, "Oh my God, how did you see that? How did you notice that?" I didn't have the experience. I don't have a psychic knowledge. I'm not even wiser or smarter than you. I am just seeing it. I just notice everything that's happening right here. I'm seeing your facial expressions. I'm feeling your feelings. You mentioned this thing a minute ago. I'm going to remember. I feel like I'm constantly being pulled in every direction, where people, their auras are pulling me in their direction. People's auras, and if you don't like the word aura because it sounds too like woo-woo, like people's presences are constantly pulling me in their direction and yelling, "Hey, pay attention to me, pay attention to me, pay attention to me and my problem, pay attention to me and my problem." Come into my orbit. Be dragged into my personal drama. Be dragged into my problems. And the thing is, like, I don't think people even see this consciously, how much their presence affects me. And if you have any problems in your life, if you have any ailments, any financial problems, any physical problems, any health problems, emotional problems, you can bet your unsensitive ass that it's going to affect me deeply. It's going to hurt me. But I don't think people understand this, because they're not used to being around highly sensitive people like that. Or if they are, they just think those people are crazy. They're just crazy. They're just crazy. Just let them jibber jabber. They're just crazy people, freaks. But like, they don't understand that their lack of care for themselves and their bodies and their life and their finances and their health, they don't understand how much it affects those sensitive people. Which is like, I mean, you're not responsible for my well-being, but like, it is literally torture for someone who's very sensitive to be in an environment where people don't have their shit together. And so like, and I just feel like talking about it. So like, I feel like I've spent so many years being forced to be and absorb the problems and the painful auras of working class people. I feel like I've spent so many years just stewing in the problems of working class people, stewing and not being able to fix them. Not, I can't even make a peep. Oh my God, there's this, I'm in hell. Did anyone hurt you? Did they hit you? Maybe sometimes people hurt me. Actually, a lot of times people hurt me intentionally. I think they were mean to me. They bullied me. They were mean to me. They were intentionally trying to bother me or hurt me. But you know what? Many times they had no idea that they were doing it. Many times they were just hurting me by existing. Because, how they were hurting me? Because I was near them while they were suffering, or while they were having a health problem, or while they were having a financial problem. And I couldn't help but absorb the feeling, absorb their aura, and it was causing me to suffer. I just couldn't help but feel what they were feeling on the inside, what their body was feeling. To suffer what was going to happen to them in the future. Like, I saw someone having a financial problem. I'm not a psychic. I'm not seeing their future. It takes one brain cell to realize that this person is about to have serious financial problems because they're not being on top of their finances, let's say. I'm just saying a broad example. It takes just noticing. It takes just noticing, watching the way this person is spending versus how they make their money. Watching the way this person is handling themselves. It takes very basic senses to see that this person is going to have a lot of problems in a very short amount of time. And so you're basically watching a train wreck about to happen, but you can't say anything. You have to just sit and stew in this stress, worry, and nobody understands what you're going through because nobody else sees it, because everybody else is blind. Everybody is blind. They're lacking senses. So and then you cry for help. You say, guys, I'm stressed out. I'm freaking out because I'm seeing this problem about to happen. This train wreck is about to happen. And I need to tell somebody about it because I'm a human. I can't keep this inside of myself. I need to talk about it. And you say something and everybody looks at you like you're mad. They look at you like you're a crazy person. Like you're hallucinating. You're seeing like fairies flying around. And then this is a funny thing that happens. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to exit the situation because I'm suffering and I'm tired of suffering for you people. So you leave from the situation. You go somewhere else. And then one of two things will happen. When you ever get in touch with those people again, one of two things will happen. So the bad thing will happen, because the bad thing was obviously going to happen. The bad thing will happen. And then they will either say, oh, I couldn't have predicted such a terrible thing. And they'll just totally forget that you ever even tried to talk about this thing, or that you even noticed it or anything. They'll just say like, oh, like this terrible thing happened that they could have never guessed, that like the universe or God or whatever divinity hates them and is trying to make them suffer. And they won't even remember or not acknowledge or notice that this was something that was bothering you or hurting you, because they didn't even have the senses to see you and your suffering in the moment. So either that will happen, or if they were sensitive enough to notice your feelings when it was all happening, they will say, wow, are you a psychic? You noticed, you predicted these things. Whoa. As if this is craziness, as if this is like some psycho thing. So being a very sensitive person compared to other people is pure hell. The trick, I think, is finding other sensitive people. But the thing with finding other sensitive people is that if they're surrounded by unsensitive people compared to them, they're going to be going through hell. And if they're going through hell, you're going to go through hell because you're a sensitive person. So basically, you want to find sensitive people that are doing okay in life, that are around people that have their shit together. You want to find sensitive people. The sensitive people tend, if they have the means to, and they're going to tend to try to have their shit together because they're going to notice the problems. They're going to notice that there's a problem in their life. They're going to notice that there's a health problem. They're going to notice that they have a sensation in their body. They're going to be stewing in it. They're going to be talking about it. They're going to be feeling like shit all the time until the problem gets fixed. But if those people are surrounded by people that don't have their shit together and are not sensitive, then those people are basically going to be forever suffering and struggling. And you, by being near them, are going to be absorbing that. And the thing is, like, a lot of people have a moral problem with cutting off people in their life that are harming them, that their presence is harming them. You know, but the thing is, like, at the end of the day, nobody is going to have to live with the consequences of you. Nobody's going to have to live with the consequences of you not taking care of yourself, but you. And the other thing is, like, you know, I think about this with myself, you know, because, like, another thing that working class people tell each other a lot is, like, you know, be a good person. Be a good person. You know, be a good person meaning, like, please others. Be a good person. Always be there. Be loyal. Always be there. So basically, like, just be, you know, be there for us in the way that we need. Be my parent, because, like, my parent was too underdeveloped to be a parent for me, so, like, I need you to be a parent for me, you know, because I'm underdeveloped, and, you know, so basically a bunch of underdeveloped people seeking parents. So be there for me, be there for me, be there for me. But who's going to be there for you? And the thing is, like, when you spend your life being underdeveloped because people weren't being there for you, when you spend your life being underdeveloped and you don't continue to develop yourself, because all you do when you have feelings, emotions, thoughts, whatever, sensations, all you do is you try to push them under the rug, you try not to process them, you treat them like there's something bad, like, you know, because the most important thing to you in your life is other people. You become a person that is not nice for other people. You become a person that's not nice to be around. The way that you know that is try holding a baby or, like, an animal and see how they feel in your presence. If you're someone who's been taking care of yourself, you've been investing in yourself, you've been taking care of your feelings, you've been taking care of your health, you'll see that the health of an animal is going to go up, it's going to improve, or the health of a baby will improve by them being near you for a long period of time. I mean, I don't even know if you'll notice it, because if you're, like, screwed up, your body is screwed up, you won't even notice the problems of other beings in your presence. But maybe notice it in somebody else, actually. Just notice, like, your friend. You know, I have a friend that her friend got her, like, a kitten. Buy a baby kitten or, like, some kind of baby animal and give it to a person who has their shit together, buy 2 baby animals. Give 1 baby animal to a person that is very self-investing, takes care of themselves, proactive about taking care of themselves. Maybe they're nice, but being nice is going to be a result of them taking care of themselves and having their shit together and having their finances together and being a planner, being organized, all these things, taking care, cleaning themselves, thinking through their thoughts. A person who's fully developed. Give 1 baby to that person. Then give another baby to a highly sacrificial person that is all about sacrifice for your community, for your family, just being a total doormat for everybody around you and not having their shit together. And just see what happens over time. Just see what happens to that little baby animal over time. And they could both be very nice people, actually. Maybe they're both very nice. What is nice even? Nice is that in the 2 minutes that they see you and they talk to you, they're able to muster the facade of someone that has their shit together. And by the way, I didn't have my shit together for many years, so I'm not judging you for not having your shit together. If you don't have your shit together, it's most likely because you're underdeveloped. You have a lot of feeling and thinking to do through yourself, I think a lot of people just need to spend a lot of time with themselves. But the thing is, if you're in a working class mindset, in a culture that's working class, it's all about the hard work rather than results or quality of life. You're probably never going to do that. You're probably never going to take the time to be with yourself, think with yourself. You're probably just going to distract yourself all day with working or, even I was watching, even meditation can be a distraction for a lot of people. Meditating can be a way to, when you meditating and thinking about something that isn't your own thoughts and your own feelings can be a distraction. It can be a way for you to not think about, not process what your body wants to think about and feel, because you don't trust yourself to go through the other side with it. You think what's the point? If I feel like this now, I will always feel like this. If I let my body indulge, if I let the baby cry too much, he's just gonna cry forever. But the thing is, sometimes a little baby needs to cry. Sometimes your body is feeling the negative thing constantly because it just wants to be allowed to feel that thing without remorse, without holding back. It wants to be able to feel the thing. It needs to feel the thing. The way out is through with the feeling. So it just needs to feel the thing. It needs to be told that it needs to be given permission to feel it and to feel safe to feel the thing. So yeah, I don't even know where I started with this, but I hope that anyone who's watching this is having a great day. And it feels cool to make these videos. It feels cool to be, my goal is to just keep making these until I feel really, really, really comfortable to just say whatever I think and just be totally unabashed, because that's what I came here to do. That's why we're living this lifestyle. This was my ultimate goal. This was like what Andrew used to always say, hey, if you had 6 months left to live, what would you do? This is what I would have done, and this is what I've always wanted to do, was just have endless time to think my thoughts and feel my feelings and to just talk about them on YouTube. And because, I don't know, it's just my favorite thing to do, is talk about it with strangers, with people that aren't in my personal life. Some of you are in my personal life, but there's also a lot of people that aren't in my personal life, and there's something really cathartic about sharing yourself with those people, because there's no fear that I might say something that might bother the wrong person, because if you're so disconnected from my life, you're not in my personal life, then you don't care. You don't care what I'm just a stranger to you. So I might as well just be like a voice inside of your head, There's no bias or expectation for me to speak in a certain way that makes you feel good. And I would want you guys to have the same thing. I would want anyone that I really care about to have the ability to just feel all their bad feelings, just feel through it and proudly feel it and loudly feel it, I know it's good for you guys, and I know that this is like, I believe in everything I'm saying, but I just feel safer to share it and say it with people where there's like a boundary. But I wouldn't want to be going through what you're going through, and I wouldn't want to pull you into my stressful feelings either. And that's a pretty cool thing about having a YouTube channel. I'd recommend it if anyone wants to do that. Okay, see you guys in the next video.